afternoon, everyone. Our Sometime After 4 news is brought to you by Youth Flex Radio Show and Cayman Live TV, Channel 33. I am Chanel Scott. This week, we will see editing of the inaugural season of the Home Gas Test Kitchen. The cast includes my very own co-host, Ayana, along with the prefect of the National Youth Culinary Program, Brittany Bodden. The Home Gas Test Kitchen video series is scheduled to be broadcasted on Cayman Live TV this month. There will be 7 episodes that will feature Caymanian cuisine alongside international dishes with a heavy dose of Caymanian culture. Check out hashtag HGTK on Instagram to follow the developments of the video series. The National Youth Commission, in partnership with the Ministry of Community Affairs, Youth and Sports, has selected the next 12 honorees of the 6th round of the Proud of Them Recognition Award. The selection committee deliberated over the 100-plus nominations for 2 weeks. The announcement of the next 12 honorees will be done tonight at a private function at the Georgetown Yacht Club starting at 6:30 p.m. It's August, and most schools are set to resume this month. Youth Flex encourages parents to look and listen to local media to be aware on when your child's school reopens. Youth Flex has partnered with the Public Library to bring you the word of the week, which is security. SECURITY. It is a noun that means the state of being free from danger or threat. Now here is Ayana with some youth achievement highlights.
From the Youth Achievement Highlight file, here is this week's notables. Congratulations to all of the young people engaged in the production of the Home Gas Test Kitchen Youth Cooking Television Series. The Home Gas Test Kitchen is scheduled to be airing later this month. Props to the over 50 Fearless Extreme Team campers. We heard that you all are having a blast in camp. Props to all of the student interns who have worked and are still working in government departments this summer. A special shout out to Dwayne and Daniel McCoy, who interned at the Youth Services Unit. And finally on the highlights, allow me to highlight the Cayman Islands Boys 12 and Under tennis team on winning the Under 12 Boys title at the recently held Blue Mountain Caribbean Tennis Open. To put items on the highlights, email the flex at james.miles@gov.ky or leave your comments on our websites. Our websites again are youthflex on tumblr.com or facebook.com and search for Youth Flex Radio Show. Youth Flex has partnered with the Public Library to bring you the word of the week, which is security. SECURITY. It is a noun that means the state of being free from danger or threat. That concludes our highlights this week. I'm Leanna.
And we are back in studios here with a new guest. Hi, welcome to the Flex. May you introduce yourself, please?
Good evening, Radio Cayman listeners. This is Ms. Deirdre Carmola from the Scholarship Secretariat and the Ministry of Education.
Hi, okay. So you work with scholarships on the scholarship board. And first question I want to ask is, what are you looking for in a student that's going to apply for the scholarships, whether it be the A-level one or the overseas?
Okay, so basically we have 2 sets of scholarships. We've got local scholarships and we've got overseas scholarships. And local scholarships have their own academic criteria, as do overseas scholarships. It just depends on which area you'd want me to address first.
Could you address the local scholarship first, please?
So local scholarships really are geared for persons wanting to either do A-level studies at UCCI at the associate level, studies at IB, studies at ICCI as well. Even the law school, and that would be your law degree. You can go up to master level studies at ICCI, which are from associate, bachelor, masters, and you can do the same at UCCI.
Okay, yes, ma'am. And for the overseas scholarship?
Well, the overseas scholarship will allow you to do right from TVET type programs, which would be technical, vocational, sort of diploma, certificate, associate level studies, which are what we call technically and vocationally targeted. So you could look at technology type degrees. We've seen people go into crime scene technology. We've seen people go into specific engineering technology or diesel engineering or automotive. Some have also gone into stuff like paramedical technology or radiology, any of those sort of vocational type studies. And there's a special TVET overseas scholarship. You also then have your standard academic overseas scholarships, which target associate, bachelor, master's, PhDs, doctor, medicine, any of those, and each one of those come with their own criteria of academics that you have to meet in order to qualify.
Okay. And so we're still in studio with Ethan and Kimberly. What are you guys planning to do in the future?
As far as college goes?
Or career, anything?
After A-levels and whatnot, I intend on pursuing a career in psychology.
That's cool.
And after A-levels, I'm planning to pursue a career in actuarial science.
Ooh.
So you guys just went through the process of applying for a scholarship as well.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that from the child's perspective, or the youth perspective, sorry.
Well, you have to answer a lot of questions about yourself and just telling them about your personality, any extracurricular activities that you do, what you plan to do in the future, and also like what you want to do pertaining to subjects, like what you want to do in your A-levels, and just if you had grades before, all of that you have to.
All right. Do you have any constructive criticism for the process, since we have our scholarship secretariat here right now? Or did you find the process quite easy to understand and go with?
It was quite easy, but you had to do a lot of writing. But,
Oh boy.
And that's fair argument. The thing is, you see, if we're going to give you a scholarship, it's not just about your grades. We have to be convinced that you're worthy of a scholarship, because you know a scholarship is a scholarship. It's something that you've earned, something that you've done well to achieve, and to be recognized for, essentially. And so it's also allows you as an applicant to think about, so she's saying, I want to do actuarial science. So the first thing we're going to say is, what is it that you plan to do with actuarial science when you come home? And one of those things that she should be saying to me is, well, I want to get into insurance, for example, or any of those sorts of things, because that's where actuarial science is going to be used. And I realize that, for example, the insurance industry is huge in Cayman and plays a significant role in our economy, and I can see myself being there. And so that shows that she's thought about where she wants to go, how A-levels will lead her into that, and by that time she should be thinking, where am I going to do overseas study to pursue that actuarial science?
So that few pages of writing is definitely worth.
It's going to pay off.
Yes.
So I'm an A-level student, and I'm going to soon be applying for my overseas scholarship. And with the overseas scholarship, you have to go into an interview. How should a person prepare for the interview?
Well, once you've done your A-level scholarship and you're into your overseas scholarship, you should have an idea of where you're going, why you're going. So let's say you chose to go to Brock University in Canada. You should know why you're going to Brock. You're not going to Brock because Niagara Falls is close. You understand?
Yeah.
So you should be able to say to me, well, the reason I've chosen Brock is because, and I'm going to keep on actuarial science. They have a really good actuarial science program, and I realize that is second to none, second at the top of the list in actuarial schools.
Yeah.
So that's a good reason. And they have a good Caribbean base, meaning the student population then has a good Caribbean population. It has a good student representative body, so that I can fit in it somewhere, or it has good services for me to be able to tap into if I'm having difficulty, so I have good support services.
Okay, that's a lot of information that I had no idea about.
So when you're reading on your university, you shouldn't just be looking at the program, but you'd also want to look, even with actuarial science, whether it's really the insurance side she wants to get into, or she really just wants to get into the actuarial science itself, where she's more statistical side of that data, and she'd want to look at a program and say, oh, well, I didn't realize in this particular actuarial science program I'm going to cover all these subjects. It's seen at computer science. People say, I want to do computer science. And I say, well, you've got programming, you've got the internet side, you've got cybersecurity, you've got networking, you've got 4 or 5 different areas. So you can't just pick computer science. And by looking at your degree, and when I say to you, provide a degree plan, you'd be able to say, okay, I see that's really what I want to wear. Oh my goodness, I don't want to do programming. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
And some people don't really do that sort of research. And so when you sit before a panel, we're going to be professionals in the field of, for example, computer science or actuarial studies, and they ask you questions, you should be able to respond.
Yeah, okay.
And then you should have a chance in that interview to ask questions to them, to say, what's it like being actuarial? what's it like being somebody in programming? Is it really what I'm thinking? I've thought about this, and they'd be able to say, no, actually it's this or whatever. So it's sort of a two-way.
Okay.
And then they're going to ask you questions about the university, about you, about costing, about why you picked the scholarship to apply, and what you know about the scholarship itself.
Yeah, so you need to be very prepared and also be prepared to also ask your panel some questions.
You should.
Yeah, okay.
Interviews should never be seen as a one-sided opportunity.
Yeah.
Even if you went in for a job interview, you have an opportunity during that interview to ask them questions.
Okay.
And that should always let them see that you're a really good candidate because you have taken and put thought into what it is you're coming in there for, not just to sell yourself, but to also ensure that you're going into something that fits you. So that's a chance to say, well, I thought about this, but can you tell me da-da-da-da-da?
Yeah.
Right.
And then they'd be like, oh, she really thinking about what she's wanting to do. You know?
I feel like this is a lot of great advice for a lot of young people, but I also feel like a lot of young people don't know this. How do you think they can go about learning? I mean, those that aren't listening right now, go about learning how to prepare for interviews and prepare to get a scholarship.
One of the things that, especially with the school students who go to A-levels, students who are in school who are applying for overseas scholarships, we visit all of the schools. And so we
Yes,
do
they
this
do.
talk.
I
and
can
come
attest
in
for that.
And I say all this stuff, and I tell you about all your stuff at school, and I tell you about your dorm, I even tell you how your bed gonna look. And then we go through costing, and we talk about your spreadsheet and what you should think about costs, and we cover everything that you should know in order for you to do that application.
Right.
And so, you know,
How often do you have these talks at the schools?
we go in usually between October, November, December.
Okay.
And we do that. We go back in again January to March to do the local. So we do a lot of talking.
Definitely. And I think you are letting people know about it very well because, I mean, in the past year, I've seen you probably like 3 times
Right.
at my school telling me about it. So it's kind of hard for me to forget. Miss Deidre, one day I was listening to a talk show and they were talking about the scholarships and the amount that you get for the overseas, which is $20,000, and a lot of people were complaining, saying that it's not enough and that the students have to then go and get a private scholarship, or the parents have to make up for the rest of the funds. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. So part of our process, talking to schools, having our town hall meetings, is to go through that costing. And essentially, there's a limited amount of budget that the government is able to provide for,
Yeah.
and to give each person equal opportunity to access that. And while this 20,000 appears to be low, there's still opportunity because there are a lot of private sector scholarships. So we've done a significant amount of work with the Cayman Yellow Pages to produce that scholarship directory. And what I've said to students, and this is one of the things I really want to touch on today, is you must get in the habit of applying for all of the available scholarships. There are a number of students this year who have said to them, "Tell me about your outside scholarships." I don't have any. Why? I didn't apply. You didn't apply? We got at least 50 other private sector scholarships and you didn't apply. It's almost as if, as students here, we feel like if I apply to too many, it looks bad on me. It ain't looking bad on anybody. You have that right to apply,
Yeah.
which means you have more eligibility to secure more funding. So just quickly, I'll take you through a minute of discussion. Let's say your cost for the year is $30,000.
Yeah.
You get $20,000 from us. You still got to figure out $10,000 on top. There's no reason you shouldn't be applying to stuff like, for example, if you're a member of the credit union, they've got a credit union grant program where you can apply and you can get a small grant towards your costs. You've got other places, other private businesses, other large firms like Ernst & Young and Deloitte, and they all do
Maples.
scholarships,
Yeah.
Maples. And if you're able to secure outside scholarships for that 10, you top it up to our 20, you've got your 30.
Right.
Otherwise, if you get small portions from different places, you have a lesser amount to have to find. And then you have student loan example that you can go and secure.
Yeah, but that's
But-
the thing. You don't want to be leaving university and then before
if
you
you
even
have to
get a
get a s-
job,
Right.
you have to be paying off student loans.
But the thing about that is that student loans don't have to be huge either. So if you're only looking at $10,000 a year, your student loan for a 3-year degree would only be $30,000.
Okay.
And it's only ever on the amount that you draw down. So if you only need 10 a year, first year you take 10, second year you take 10, third year you take the next 10. But then your parents can pay back over time during the 3 years that you're away. And when you come back and get a job, you pay the remaining amount.
No, definitely. And there's something I want you to make known to the public that if you get your scholarship and you go off to university, and then say 2 years in, you decide that you no longer want to be at university, they have to pay back the $20,000 for the 2 years.
There's a couple of things that go on there. The first thing I'll find out is what happened.
Yeah.
Because it could be that that university is just not a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that you're struggling with the courses and you really thought you were going to be an actuarian and didn't work out. So there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how life is.
Mm-hmm.
And before you decide to quit and come home and hide it away and never tell a soul, we figure out, do you need to go to somewhere else?
Yeah.
Maybe you need to change the university. Maybe you actually just need to change your degree plan. What we do is look at where your strengths are. So over the first year, we're going to look and see, second year, where have you really been strong in your studies despite the program that you're in?
Mm-hmm.
And say, have you considered creative writing? Because I notice in all your English and all of these things, you have scored really high. And in all your math, you're struggling like you can't think.
Yeah.
And so those are things that you want to think about. And we allow a change of university. We allow a change of major. There are issues if you're expecting to get additional funding when the change of major causes you to need more time, or the change of university.
Mm-hmm.
But you can always come home and finish. And so it doesn't always mean that you're just going to come back and be asking you for full repayment.
Right.
There are lots of things that we'll take you through to figure it out. And we usually almost always figure it out. Some students just come home for a year because they just needed a break. They needed to refocus, get themselves back together, and they go back.
So when you finish your scholarship and finish your degree, do you have to come back home right away, or can you go away?
Oh yes,
That's my big question.
After you pay for the 4 years of our like associates or something, we would have to come back and stay here for 4 years.
It don't work that way. What happens, right, is essentially most of you will do an associate and a bachelor.
Yeah.
If you go to UCCI, you're going to normally do your associate before you go. That doesn't guarantee that you're only going to need 2 years to finish your bachelor. It depends on the university you're going. It depends on the type of program. It also depends on what you covered here. So my friend over here doing actuarial science will probably need to do 3 to 4 years even after an associate here.
And what if she doesn't do the associate here? What if she goes right after A levels?
Right. So she would take 4 years generally to do her bachelor.
Right.
And if at the end of that 4 years she wants to stay for a year, she has up to 12 months before she has to return home.
Oh,
But the return home, in terms of the repayment of the bond, isn't a physical monetary repayment. It's time. So you come home and you work in the islands for a time equivalent to your award of your scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
But if at the end of that 12 months you think, I really think I should do my master's, you can also apply for master's and go and do your master's. At the end of the master's, you come back and you do 6 years, because you would have gotten 2 years for master's, 4 years for your bachelor. So that's how that would work.
And this doesn't necessarily guarantee you a job, does it?
What?
The coming back
home.
No. But what we try to do now is we're working with the NWDA. So all of our students are going to be registered through the NWDA. But we also do the National Internship Program.
Mm-hmm.
And this year what we do is go out to all of our scholars. We give you an opportunity to apply within government for the internship opportunities. We also encourage you to apply externally to the private sector for internship opportunities. And what that does is allow you to get known.
Mm-hmm.
And some people get tied to say, well, I don't want to do internship unless I can get paid. I hear you. But remember, you could do an internship without pay that somebody figures you out. And they never forget, oh my gosh, do you remember Chelsea? She was here last year and she did such an awesome job. Do you know when she's coming back? They call me up and say, can you tell me when Chelsea's coming back? I put you in touch. You end up getting a job, because it doesn't always have to look at the immediate repayment. You look at the long term.
Yeah.
And so you look at it in terms, you go in, show them what you know, show them that you're figuring it out at school and how you want to come back and contribute. So there are a couple of ways that can happen.
Miss Deidre, I have one more question to ask you. This is pertaining to law students, right? I know that we have the law school here on island, but however, there are some students that would want to do law overseas. Is there a scholarship that they can get?
Yeah. We give scholarships for law overseas.
Yes?
Just as we do locally. I myself go to law school here. I do it part-time.
Okay.
You know, I've been a banking and trusted professional for 20-something years, and now I do scholarships and I want to get my law degree. So, but the opportunity is that if you're able to get into an overseas institution, some children don't want to go overseas, and so they choose to study here. And I want students to understand, studying here makes you no less of an academic as studying overseas. The opportunity overseas means that you get more exposure, but you can always go and do your LPC overseas, which is your legal practitioner's course. And so you get the exposure then. Or you get it when you go to do your LLM, which is your master's in law. And so you can choose. But you also have a significant amount of law scholarships by the private sector, again, which you can combine with ours to be able to afford to go overseas.
Okay,
Right.
I'm happy you cleared that up, because I was once told that if you wanted to do law, they wouldn't give you a law degree.
At one time, that was the situation.
Oh,
correct.
okay, but that's now changed. That's
Well,
great.
I'm going to bring it back to the A levels. So we note that the government awards scholarships for students to attend A level courses at private schools. And I was wondering if there's any move by the government to bring it back into our own system, to have year 12 or the A level programs back
In the government.
in the government system.
I think that has been considered. I think the issue that has to be considered is, and we have to look at it strategically and in terms of value. So if we're doing it outside and it's costing a certain amount of funding, are we able to do that for the same value inside? Which means that would you have sufficient teachers? Can you hire and have specialty in those particular areas?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that as the government moves forward, considering all of that, that they may come out with a decision that they can move back internally and offer A levels internally. It was there when I was in high school. It'd be great to see it back in. There's no doubt of that.
Okay.
So there are considerations. I can't say that that will happen, but it's not that it hasn't been considered.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on to the Flex and letting us know more about the scholarships and helping us to improve for our interviews. Thank you so much, Ms. Deidre. Do you have
Sure.
any more final comments or shout outs?
No, I mean, I'd like to, big up the team, the scholarship team. We
Yeah.
work really, really hard. I know sometimes they say we don't answer and stuff, but I can't answer everybody. If I got 1,400 children on scholarship and everybody calls, I'd never work, right? I just answer the phone. So we ask you to call moderately. Preferably, we ask that you send an email to scholarships@gov.ky. And I always say to people, if you don't get a response, send a follow-up.
Okay.
If you need to make an appointment with us, now's not the best time because we're right in the middle of awarding new scholarships, but we'd be happy to get you in September so that we can start looking at where you're at, what you need to do, and so forth, so that you can plan the next year ahead.
Thank you for bringing up the new scholarships. By any chance, do you know when they're going to be announced?
Well, we have already announced the overseas. The local will be announced probably another week or two.
Okay.
And then, of course, many of you are waiting on grades, so you won't get confirmation of those scholarships until the grade results come through.
Okay. Thank you so much,
So
Ms.
try and
Deidre.
breathe over the next couple of weeks.
You hear that, Kimberly? Breathe. Okay, we'll be taking our third music break.
Our next music break will be Wild Things by Alessia Cara.